Somewhere right now, a person earning $200,000 a year feels broke. Somewhere else, a man living in a 400 square foot apartment feels wealthy. The difference has nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with one question almost nobody stops to ask: how much is actually enough? Let me tell you about Daniel. He is 34. He works at a tech firm in San Francisco. His annual salary is $182,000. By any historical or global standard, that number puts him in the top few percent of earners on Earth. He has $200 in his savings account. He feels, in his own words, like he is running in place. Daniel is not reckless. He does not gamble. His apartment costs $3,800 a month. He leases a car. He eats out most evenings because cooking after a 10-hour day feels impossible. He takes a weekend trip every couple of months because the job is hard and he needs to recover. None of these things seem unreasonable individually. Together, they have consumed everything he earns. And Daniel does not feel like he is living extravagantly. He feels like he is just keeping up. This is not a character flaw. It is biology. But the economy has learned to exploit it with extraordinary precision. The global advertising industry spends over $700 billion per year. Not to make you buy what you need, but to keep the gap between where you are and where you want to be permanently visible. Daniel was never asked how much was enough. None of us were. In 2010, 2 Princeton researchers published a study that changed how economists and psychologists talked about money and happiness. Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton, both eventual Nobel Prize recipients, analyzed 450,000 American survey responses. Their finding: emotional well-being rises with income up to approximately $75,000 per year. Beyond that point, additional income produced no measurable improvement in how people actually felt day to day. The world responded with shock. But here is the part almost no one discussed. Kahneman and Deaton separated 2 types of happiness: emotional well-being, how you feel in actual daily moments, and life evaluation, how you judge your life from a distance. Life evaluation kept rising with income. Emotional well-being did not. This distinction is everything. When most of us imagine having more money, we are imagining a better daily experience. Lighter mornings, less friction, genuine ease. The data says, above a certain point, more income does not deliver that. It delivers a better story about yourself. One you can feel proud of in the abstract, but will not feel in your body at 7 a.m. on a Tuesday. In 2021, researcher Matthew Killingsworth revisited the question with real-time happiness data from 33,000 adults. He found happiness continues to rise past $7,500, but the rise is modest and logarithmic. Each additional dollar delivers less and less return. And for people already carrying significant emotional weight, higher income provided almost no improvement at all. Neurologically, the explanation is clean. The anticipation of reward activates the brain's dopaminergic system more powerfully than receiving the reward itself. The wanting feels better than the getting, which means the pursuit, not the arrival, is where your brain sends most of its energy. Every arrival resets the baseline. The wanting begins again. You are not chasing happiness. You are chasing the feeling of chasing. In 2018, a mechanical engineer named Hiroshi Yamamoto, documented by NHK World, voluntarily reduced his hours from full-time to 3 days a week. He was 41. His salary dropped 40%. He was not ill. He was not forced out. He had run a precise calculation on his time. He counted how many waking hours in the previous decade he had spent doing things he chose versus things he was required to do. The ratio was 1:6. He decided it was unacceptable. After the income drop, there was a 3-month adjustment period. Smaller bank statements, real anxiety. Then something shifted. The anxiety did not disappear because the numbers grew. It disappeared because he stopped needing the numbers to be larger. His expenses had reconfigured around what he actually used. What he actually used was considerably less. A 2019 study in psychological science examined discretionary time, hours not spent working or on obligations, across 21,000 people. People with too little reported stress. People with too much reported purposelessness. The well-being sweet spot. 2 to 5 hours of free time per day. Not zero, not unlimited. Enough. Denmark has been consistently ranked among the world's happiest countries in the World Happiness Report. Researchers point to a cultural framework called janteloven, informal norms that actively discourage conspicuous wealth display. What the data shows is that removing the competition, not winning it, is what reduces the anxiety. British GP Dr. Margaret Holloway, profiled by the BBC in 2021, sold her 4-bedroom house, reduced her hours, and moved her family to a smaller home. Before, 50-plus hour weeks, a family that ate dinner together twice a week, no 2 consecutive nights of full sleep in 4 years. After 30-hour weeks, dinner together 5 nights a week, and, documented in the interview, the first uninterrupted fortnight of sleep she could remember. She was asked if she missed what she gave up. Her answer: she missed the idea of those things considerably more than the things themselves. Between 2015 and 2020, minimalism became one of the most searched lifestyle terms online. Books sold in millions. The Netflix documentary reached an estimated 30 million viewers, and by every measurable indicator, it mostly failed. Not because the people who tried it were weak, because most were solving the wrong problem. Minimalism, as sold to the public, said, "The things are the problem. Remove the things." But researchers studying consumer behavior found that people who pursued minimalism as an aesthetic, the white rooms, the capsule wardrobes, often rebuilt their possessions to previous levels within 18 to 36 months. Some spent more in the process, purchasing quality minimalist replacements for the ordinary things they had thrown away. The possessions were never the source. They were the symptom. The source is what psychologists call extrinsic motivation, the drive to acquire and perform based on external validation rather than internal values. When your sense of adequacy depends on what others see, your consumption will always be calibrated to what is visible. Removing objects without changing that calibration accomplishes nothing permanent. Self-determination theory, developed by Dietze and Ryan at the University of Rochester, identifies 3 core psychological needs driving genuine well-being: autonomy, choosing your own path; competence, effectiveness at meaningful work; and relatedness, genuine connection to others. Notice what is not on that list: status, square footage, net worth. The honest version of minimalism starts not with your closet, but with one question: which of your current obligations would you choose again if you were starting over? Then, very carefully, it removes the ones you would not. That process is slower, less photogenic, and considerably more effective than selling your furniture. Real numbers matter here, because this conversation gets dismissed fast by people who say it is easy to talk about simplicity when you are not struggling. That criticism has weight. The Economic Policy Institute calculates a basic adequacy budget, not luxurious, but genuinely sufficient, for different U.S. regions. For a single adult in a moderate-cost city, $38,000 to $52,000 per year. For a family of 4, $72,000 to $106,000. These numbers include housing, food, transport, healthcare, and modest savings. Not the life advertising sells. The life research says is materially enough. Above these numbers, additional income helps primarily through one channel: perceived security. The fear of catastrophe decreasing. That has real value, but it has a ceiling. Most people who earn well above these thresholds report that the security feeling did not rise proportionally with income. What rose instead was their fixed costs. This is the savings rate paradox. A person earning $60,000 and saving 20% is, by most financial metrics, in a more secure position than a person earning $200,000 and saving 2%. The first person has built a gap between income and expenses. The second has built a lifestyle dependent on a specific and fragile income level. But beyond the financial math is the time math. Harvard Business School researcher Ashley Willens and UBC's Elizabeth Dunn published research confirming that people who explicitly prioritize time over money, who make deliberate trade-offs for more discretionary hours, report higher happiness, stronger relationships, and lower emotional exhaustion. The effect held across income levels. It was not that richer people could afford to value time and therefore felt better. Valuing time over money predicted happiness regardless of what you earned. And yet in every survey of priorities, when asked what they would do with more resources, the default answer is always, earn more money. Almost never, buy back time. We are systematically undervaluing the one resource that is actually finite. Every dollar you do not have can theoretically be earned later. Every hour spent inside an obligation you did not choose is gone permanently. We started with two people, one earning $200,000, feeling broke, one in 400 square feet, feeling wealthy. The difference between them is not the number. It is the relationship to the number. One has defined enough. The other is still waiting to arrive somewhere that has no address. The people in every study, every documented case, every culture that consistently gets this right share one thing. At some point, they stopped treating more as the default direction and defined, specifically, what an adequate and genuinely livable life looked like for them. Not optimal, not best case, adequate, sufficient, enough. And then they arranged their decisions around protecting that definition rather than endlessly expanding it. This is not settling. This is the architecture of a life that actually holds. The research on voluntary simplicity is clear on one point. People who simplify towards something sustain it. People who simplify away from something do not. If you are moving toward more time with people you love, that is a direction. If you are simply moving away from too much stuff, you will be back to too much stuff within 2 years. Enough is not a number. It is a decision. And unlike almost every other meaningful decision in your life, it is one you can make today, with exactly what you already have. The question is not how much is enough. You already know. You have always known. The question is whether you are willing to stop pretending you do not. If this moved you, share it with one person who needs to hear it, and leave a comment. What in your life right now is already enough?